Hey YouTube, Joe Walker here at Def Digits Guitar Lessons. I'm going live right now for my student Laurel, and she is interested in playing Tool. She's a beginner. There's a lot of Tool stuff that is not appropriate for beginners, not yet anyway, but we found a couple of tunes that have intros that are straightforward enough for a beginner to learn. So first one is Stinkfist. That's what I was just playing, going. Now, to get that sound of boom, dong, boom, dong, we got the low E string. That's the note, but we hear the low E string go up just a little bit, like that. I'm putting my finger behind the nut. That's the nut right there. You go behind the nut. You'll be able to do this on most guitars. Some guitars it'll be really difficult, but just try it out. You go behind the nut and you press the low E string down back there behind the nut. And you'll hear it rise in pitch just a little bit. I can get mine maybe 1 fret's worth up to that note on this guitar anyway. Other guitars you'll be able to bend it more, but we don't need to bend it even that far, I think. Just enough to get out of tune and you get that effect of. So on this intro we're going to hit that low E string twice. And then we go up to A string 5th fret. We could play the note there. That's where I like to play it because I wrap my fingers around and mute the other strings and I get. And when I play that note, it mutes everything else and I don't get other noise. We could also play that same note on the open D string. Then it's a lot harder to mute the excess noise from the other strings. So when I play that note, I go to 5th fret on the A string, and I've got my finger laying up against the strings on that side, and my thumb over the top to mute the low E string. So it's like I make this motion to fret that note and mute the other strings at the same time. And then that's the only note that we can hear at that moment. So when we play that low E string twice, this bend behind the nut that we're going to do, we start pushing that down after we hit the low E string first time. So we hit it once, and then we start pushing down. The moment we hit the low E string the second time is the moment that that finger should come off, because we don't want to hear it go like that. We don't want that second hit on the low E string to be the bent note. That's when you need to come off of it. So we hear it going like dun, dun. It goes up, and then on the second hit, it's all the way back to nothing. So you can press gradually after the first hit, and then take that finger off right away the moment you do the second hit. Like that. And another reason you got to take your finger away right away is you got to move it up to that 5th fret to get that next note. So that's the intro of the song. When we go into the verse, it's the same riff, but with a palm mute over here. And the palm mute gives it that muffled sound of where the notes are chunkier and they don't sustain. It sounds like everything is like it sounds like everything has been gagged. So we can still hear the notes, but they're gagged or muffled or palm muted. So the palm mute is the side of your palm, the karate chop side, just goes right up against the strings, touches the strings right in front of the bridge. So the bridge on this guitar is right here, and that's where the strings start vibrating. They vibrate from this point over to the nut. That's where the string vibrates when I play the open string like that. So if I have my wrist behind the bridge, it's not going to do anything. Or the side of my palm, rather. If I have it directly on the bridge, it might do a little bit of something if it's touching the part of the string that's supposed to be vibrating. That's a little bit of a palm mute. If I push it forward this way just a little bit from the bridge, so I'm on the bridge, just move it forward maybe 1/4 inch, then it's a much chunkier mute. If I push it forward some more, it's starting to choke it out. Eventually, it just chokes out that string all the way. If I do my palm mute way up here, it's gone. So we want it right on the bridge, just a tiny bit forward. And you can experiment with how far forward you put that palm mute so that you can get really chunky sounds when you push it far enough forward that don't choke out the string all the way. Or you can get just barely muffled sounds if it's right on the bridge. And that's just barely more muffled than the open string. So right on the bridge, open string, then muted on the bridge. So to get this part of the song, I'm on the bridge and maybe a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch forward from the bridge. And I've got that part of my hand is going across all the strings. And as I pick, that part of my hand is probably coming in diagonally like that. So I'm touching the low E string in the ideal spot for it, and the A string too. And you can see that part of my hand right there is the spot that is touching the strings. I don't need to press it like that, but that's what's touching the string. And then when I play that note on the 5th fret, A string, it just gets chunked right out. And in the song, that creates space for the vocals to come in without trying to scream over. The vocals come in pretty soft at the beginning of that verse. Let's look at the other song, Push It. That is going. So now we're doing open A string, is all of those low notes. And then we're going to be moving around notes on the G string. So we start with fret 5 on the G string. Fret 5 and slide that down to fret 4. So you pick it once on fret 5, and then you slide your finger down from fret 5 to fret 4 without picking it again. So that means you're pressing the string down on fret 5, and you keep pressing as you move your finger to fret 4. And it can't go too slowly, or you'll get that. The note will buzz out before you get there. So it's fret 5, then straight down to fret 4. Up against the fret on fret 5, and then up against the fret on fret 4. Like that. So we go, let's look at all the notes on the G string, and then we'll add in those A string notes. Fret 5, slide to 4, and then you go fret 2, fret 1, fret 2. That's it. 5, slide to 4, 2, 1, 2. 5, slide to 4, 2, 1, 2. One tiny little thing we should add, if you want to, consider this a bonus thing. When you go to fret 1, bend it just a tiny bit. And that's my finger over here is bending that string out of alignment just a tiny bit. Then we get that kind of sound of. So if we add in those A notes, open A string, your pick is going to be alternating between the G string and the A string. So you can do this however you want. I'm doing all downstrokes on these. You could go upstrokes on the G string and downstrokes on the A string if that helps you navigate between them. Another thing you might do, if you're okay with it, is keep your pick on the A string and use a finger for the G string. So I'm using my middle finger to pluck that G string every time I need to play it. And my pick only takes charge of the A string. So let's look at how those A string open notes are being stuck in there. We've got our 5 slide down to 4. We'll start with that. Then we do 1 A string between this and the next one on the G string. 5 slide down to 4, 1 A string. Then between all of the other G string notes, we're going to get 2 A strings. So we get fret 2 up here, 2 A strings. Fret 1 up here with a little bend, 2 A strings. Back to fret 2 and 2 A strings. So we get 5, 4, 1 A string, fret 2, 2 A strings, 1, the little bend, 2 A strings, 2, 2 A strings. That's it for today. Hope that gives you some good stuff to work on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.